UFC because it is the number one fight promotion in the world. But back-to-back Apex cards for the UFC last weekend and this weekend, even though last weekend, pretty good. There were some good fights, not going to lie. But nonetheless, we decided to shift gears tonight, and we had to talk about the PFL Battle of the Giants. I mean, shit, if they're not going to talk about it, and they're not going to promote it, well, by God, on Headkicks and Haymakers, we'll help them promote it cost-free, Paul Davis or Don Davis, because that's the biggest card of the weekend. It is PFL Battle of the Giants. My biggest gripe right now is that it is not being promoted. People are not talking about the return of the Predator, Francis Ngannou. We have not seen him in the octagon since 2021? 22, January 22, I believe, actually. So it's been 2 full years since we've seen Francis. Obviously, outside that, the first time outside of the UFC, 3 full years. Thanks, Bobby. Since we've seen him in the octagon, first time outside the UFC, inside of a different octagon, and he's taken on none other than Fiera, the El Problemo, a guy who knocked out Ryan Bader over a year ago, and here we are. This card is pretty stacked, but my main gripe, and we'll break down the card, but my main gripe is, how come nobody's talking about this card? Mainly PFL. I got ESPN, who is their partner. There's not one thing on ESPN on the bottom line that says PFL, Francis versus Fiera. Nothing. Not a damn thing. The worst. You're supposed to be the number 2 promotion in the world, and we don't even know. You're not even promoting this card on the worldwide leader. Bobby, your thoughts?
Definitely a little bit improved from where we were last week. If we remember, before we cut out of here, I wanted to hold off on my criticism towards Don Davis because I was kind of waiting for it to play out and see what was going on. You had Uncrowned launching, so like the timing of that couldn't worked out any better. So you're definitely like starting to see it more. Their socials have been blowing up with it. For like the last day, like heavy posting and stuff. My gripe the entire time has been, I think they should have been doing this, a couple months out. I know they did have like kind of somewhat of a press tour and stuff. So, I mean, it seems from their angles, they kind of exhausted everything. But for me personally, I just felt like they weren't catering enough to the new fans that they're trying to bring in. They're trying to like go off this, we're not the UFC, but we're better than the UFC. Wink, wink. Like, let me give you all these things. And all their promotion weirdly uses the UFC's name in it and stuff like that. Like it kind of comes off, like I get what they're doing. It makes sense with having Francis signed to the fight, okay, you can do that a little bit. But at a certain point, you should just be promoting the fighters that you have on this card. And I think, they were a little light on that. Like, I do not think the Paul Hughes, AJ McKee fight is being talked about nearly enough. I mean, especially when like their biggest issue is having like homegrown stars and stuff. Hey, they finally got one in Paul Hughes. He's doing something, jumping right into the deep end and taking on a guy that only has 1 loss. So definitely, no walk in the park. But, I can't even get it on the trailer. I just get all this, Battle of the Giants, stuff. And I don't know, the Brace for Impact thing just seemed a little corny for me. I'm more than happy to watch that fight. But I think they really misstepped in not advertising it as being for the lineal heavyweight title. They seem to kind of switch up their attitude a little bit this week. But then the other gentleman, not Don Davis, but the other one, he was like, once again, like trying to compare themselves to the UFC, saying it's a different product. And, at the end of the day, that's just not going to work, because you're not the UFC. A lot of the marketing just seemed, similar. And, it definitely does feel like a big fight. Maybe that's just because I really am aware of like the main card. So I'm excited for it. But I think it's without a doubt the best, card that PFL / Bellator, whatever you want to call it, has put on. So yeah, they're asking $49.99 for it. Not the cheapest price, but at the same time, when you compare it to the UFC, it isn't that bad. And there are some really good quality fights, pretty much with their top guys. So
yeah. Real quick, you mentioned the CEO of Peter Murray says Saturday's PFL Super Fights event is superior to any offering the UFC has made in 2024. UFC 300, The Sphere, this event on October 19th is the biggest of the year, second to none. I call bullshit. Well, because you haven't even done a good enough job of promoting to get, like, we're hardcore fans. Like, we are hardcore fans who watch damn near anything and tune in every Saturday. But how can you get the casual to watch? Like you said, Bobby, they didn't do a good job. They should have said this is for the lineal heavyweight championship. That should be plastered on about every TV and everything kind of going.
Well, especially like Don Davis claiming he spent more on the production for this than the UFC did on the Sphere. So if that was remotely true, why couldn't you have put Paul Hughes in that fucking trailer? Was that not in the Sphere budget? I mean, I understand a lot of the times it just sounds like he's like talking out of his ass, but to his credit, he is still doing, I don't want to say things in a different way, but they are, El Problema is getting paid like I think a minimum of $2 million for this fight. So I mean, they're at least kind of matching the thing with pretty much everything they told Francis to signing, they have given him, and that is all worked out. But at the same time, when Don Davis does these like little snide comments and then like tweets stuff about Kayla Harrison, it kind of reminds you more of, oh, is this Don Davis or is this Don White? Because, sometimes I can't tell the difference between him and Dana. Other times he acts, completely different. So it's very interesting to see kind of how the success of it will be in North America, because that's where the pay-per-view part of it's being sold. I believe most of the out of the country stuff is not on pay-per-view. So
I think it's on DAZN. All of it's on DAZN.
It's on DAZN and ESPN Plus. They're doing that Helwani thing, the Helwani Vision, if you buy it on DAZN. So like credit to them for like doing different stuff and like, trying to get people to buy it because they know pirating is such an issue. So like, that idea wasn't around last week. They premiered it this week. And I think that's a really good idea. But, I think they should have been screaming that shit from the rooftop for at least the minimum of the last month,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Whit. What are your thoughts just like they're promoting this card or before we start even looking at the card?
Yeah, man. I gotta say for real, Bobby pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's an idea that you want to compete. Earlier this year, someone who wants to compete in another form of combat sports that we have been paying attention to has been Turki Al Sheikh. Salam alaikum to all my brothers in Riyadh season, the promotion. And we see them come to the fight game, to the boxing game, with a level of promotion and storytelling, which is like new. You know what I mean? Every time we look around, they had a promo, a half of a movie, and they spared no expense. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but do you have to promote an event such as this, where it's like the Clash of the Titans? I think you do. Somewhere in the minds of what's going on in PFL, I think they might have dropped the ball, and they might have went, we got time, and then all of a sudden, you look up and it's next week. Oh my God. So now what are we going to do? Are we going to spend, the rest of our budget on marketing? Are we going to flood, social media platforms? Are we going to get a promo? Are we going to do a press run? I think those things are where the seniority and the tenure of a fighting promotion of the UFC really supersede the PFL or and Bellator. Because when it's fights like this, John Jones and DC were on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. They were having those conversations. John Jones, well, DC was on I can't remember what podcast at the time it was that was really popular, and they had like a really in-depth conversation about his story. Those steps are what I think PFL should do to take the next leap in their evolution. You got the fighters, or you have some of the fighters in which we do want to see, like Bobby mentioned. But we don't know that they're there. We don't know what they're doing. Some of the best parts about UFC is watching those pre-fight videos where guys are training, warming up, running, getting ready for the fight. Those conversations where, we're in the gym, we're here, we're there, we're in Arizona, we're in Big Bear, California, getting ready for this crazy event. Here is fighter A sweating his ass off, getting ready to whoop at, and he says something, interesting. Those things are the steps that UFC has mastered, even though they've confined it to specifically, ESPN Plus and UFC.com if you want to get all of the backstories and stuff like that. But, I remember a time when, and guys, we're around the same age, where you could cut on like right, I think it was right after the Man Show on FX, and bam, it was the UFC story stuff that you want to see before the fight comes on. I feel like PFL has to take that kind of step along with its promotion and its marketing to grasp that 17 to 34 crowd. Okay, because we don't know. You know what I mean? I didn't know nothing about Turkey Al Sheik and Riyadh season, but I knew they made a video game you could have played for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I think they have to think of creative. Shout out to Ariel Hawani for riding the train, of course, because he's been around for a long time covering MMA in a multitude of ways. And I think he deserves some promo, some credit, almost like the Manning brothers do with football. But at the same time, you could still do a little more. You got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got X. Like, I be on those social media platforms quite often. I ain't seen a Francis Ngannou meme yet. Why? I ain't seen a Hernan Ferraro meme yet. Like a cyborg meme, a cyborg punching a body bag, anything. But in essence, I think this is once again a growing stage for them. And if they get the reaction they want, maybe, just maybe, they'll start to do something different for the PFL cards. But I don't know how they're going to do it, because they can't get much bigger than Francis Ngannou and El Problema. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, this is my biggest other gripe too is like when PFL first bought Bellator, they said that they were going to do these two different promotions and everything else, but you got Bellator fighters on this card, you got PFL fighters. Like, just make it PFL and call it good. Like, just in this whole mixed bag of bullshit that you got going on, just call it PFL and let's and let's move forward with that. But
The
this
only
card is
reason they keep Bellator around like that is mainly because they got that deal with HBO Max. So like to them, it's just another thing. But yeah, it makes it a confusing product. For this card alone, all that in my mind, I'm aware of it, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like, to me, it's one promotion. I don't, care about the trinkets and bells they're handing out. Johnny Eblin is the middleweight champion in Bellator, so his belt is on the line. But yeah, and then one last thing, just imagine if Ariel's show did not premiere this week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Initially, right? That's what I thought was going to happen, and why I was like, damn, this is looking like a real miss. But I feel like a lot of eyes are going to be brought in that way. But if I feel like they just cut it a little bit too close,
Yeah, it is, and I think like Whit said, I'm on social media and things like that, and I'm not seeing any sort of ads on anything when you scroll either. So it's just like, well, you guys said he put all this money together, like it was supposed to be more money than the Sphere, but at least I knew the Sphere card was happening because like it was on my social medias, even if I wasn't a fan of the sport. Like I knew what was going on. I knew that Sean O'Malley, and now I get that not everybody's the UFC, and they don't have like the UFC is a juggernaut, especially with ESPN attached to it as well, but.
They did run trailers for it during last week's Apex, which, that's nothing too new. They've advertised cards like that before, but none of those cards had Francis Ngannou on it. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. That's probably the best advertisement you've done because, there are people that are watching right now. But, I was critical like a week or two ago when I told him it doesn't really count advertising it on your show because, you're not getting like the types of views. Like, yeah, me and you are aware it's going on, but how is that, really helping them in the long run?
Check this out, guys.
Yeah, you got to promote to the casual fan.
I just was thinking about that, bro. So as I was looking and thinking about something earlier, I kind of had I just found this clip. So for instance, like you, me, and Bobby mentioned, Botkins, that we're on social media. One of the hottest waves of social media currently right now is TikTok. Over 1.5 billion active users each month. 25% of active users in America are between the age of 10 to 19. And you got that 21 to 34 demographic, which is basically about 42% if you put the two percentages together. Just imagine a quarter of those people scrolling enough to catch a PFL ad and it looks dope. But then, some people are going to pirate it, but you want the eyes on the product so that it can be talked about and recognized. I know Dana White makes a huge, huge fuss about pirating and illegal streams. I know that it takes away from the bottom line, but in a sense of PFL, I think any eyes are better than no eyes at all. And this
yeah, 1,001%. This is to me though, the best card that the PFL could put on. Like you can't get any better than this. So you gotta hope they can hit a home run here. Production wise, you got to hope you can hit a home run here. Fight wise, and we'll go ahead and really, I just want to talk about the four best fights. I mean, it's a 5-fight card, but the card opens up with AJ McKee, who is, Bobby, you mentioned he's the Bellator's homegrown star. Like he is their was Bellator's number one guy. His lone loss was to Patricio Pitbull. There's no shame in that. He has been, Bellator ride or die, and he's taken on a guy named Paul Hughes. If you don't know Paul Hughes, Paul Hughes was coming up out of Ireland. It was either him or Ian Gary who was going to be the best Irish fighter at the time. Paul broke his left hand in a fight, then broke his right hand in two different fights, 2 different times. And now finally was out of, Cage Warriors. The UFC did offer him a contract. It wasn't, they offered him crappy, like 12, like they do everybody else, 12 and 12 or some bullshit. He said, no, thank you. PFL came correct. And, this is, I believe his second fight in the PFL, and he's getting the always game, AJ McKee, in a bright spot. And we're going to see a really good young fighter in Paul Hughes, who has a bright future in this sport. Really, both guys. Like AJ McKee is pretty young himself. AJ McKee's only had 23 fights. He's 22-1 to Paul Hughes's 12-1. But this shine the brights right here on the opening card on 2 of your young guys who you can build this organization with going forward.
This would be the main event on any of their other cards that they put on, like by far. So yeah, the fact that this is kicking it off is awesome.
Well, this beats the last 2 Apex cards, like the main events of the Apex this weekend, especially.
Oh, you're not a fan of the Pereira fight?
Come on.
I have not even looked at it yet. You know,
Pereira Hernandez, I think, is the main. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, you know, I'll definitely get down on it, but who knows if it's live? Like this will definitely be taking the prime TV screen. It is during the day because it's in Riyadh, but so yeah, we'll see how that all works out.
Who you like, AJ McKee or Paul Hughes in this? I mean, I think you said it. This is your favorite fight.
Yeah, I mean, when I tell people this, they'll like look at me like, what the hell are you smoking? And, you know, I'll simply tell them like, I think this is kind of the biggest fight as far as the future of their sport goes, because, you know, both these guys are relatively young, but, you know, you got Paul Hughes that is, you know, coming in. He fought to get out of that Cage Warriors deal. And then, you know, you got AJ, who I was wondering what kind of mood he was going to be in for this fight. I didn't know if he was going to be pissed off. Like it took him a while to get me a fight. But, you know, watching his interviews and stuff, he seems locked in as ever. So I just don't know what is going to happen in this fight. There are so many different angles, and it just excites me. You know, I think a lot of people see it, and they just figure that, you know, AJ will have his way with him and end up styling on him or something. But I think it's a lot more down the line than people realize. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but they can throw elbows in this, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah, because it's not a league fight. It's not a league like a tournament fight.
Yeah. I just more wanted to bring up the rules I sneer at that they do, but yeah, so awesome for the elbows. But you know, as far as picking it, it's so tough because it could literally go either way. But you know, I think PFL really missed out on an opportunity in promoting this, because like all the stuff when they were bringing up the UFC, putting them in their mouth, like this could have been the one angle you could have actually said that, been like, hey, this is the hottest prospect coming out of Ireland, and we signed him because you're too cheap. But instead, you know, they want to keep going out like Kayla Harrison. And, you know, that's just typical Donnie Don. But, you know, getting back to who I'm picking on that one, it might come back and bite me, but I think we might see a tough fight, and very well could see AJ suffer his second L. And that's the way I'm going. I'm going to be picking Paul Hughes.
Yeah, Paul Hughes is the dog on it at plus 145. So it's a pretty close fight. Like the odds got it. AJ McKee at minus 175 is a favorite. So it's a close odds have it as a close fight as well.
I kind of thought they'd have AJ at least at like minus 350 or something.
Wow.
So I mean, it's interesting to see the bookmakers get, you know, kind of show the same respect. I don't know if that it opened like that or money went into them, but I think that's how a lot of other people see it. But I see it much more of a pick 'em, and we're just going to get a really good opening fight.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by this fight too. What's your thoughts?
All right, man. So you guys know me, man. I'm the numbers guy. So I'm just looking at a couple things. Big shouts out to my people from Tapology checking in. And we are going to do what I talked about off camera, guys. And I'm going to pick a couple of these with you. So Bobby, we got you rolling with Paul Hughes. Big news by decision. Is that right?
I don't think a decision will get it done, honestly,
wow.
because you know, he's going to test him. So, you know, see if he can get him on the ground and unleash those elbows. He's got some vicious elbows. So, yeah, let's live a little. Let's go by finishing him.
All right. So I'm going to go with you on that one. We're going to put it midway. We're going to say round two. Round two TKO Paul Hughes. Right now on Tapology, as I look at the stats so far,
I'd be so interesting to know like what a book would give me back on that. I would assume it'd be some fat plus money.
definitely.
What's up, Jason? Thanks for
They
tuning
got
in.
so Tapology got it as with a 1,039 people in the community have voted already, and they're actually going the other way, man. 85% for McKee Jr., 15% for Hughes, and everybody's going McKee by submission. So this is a little different. I'm up here on DraftKings right now, and I'm seeing McKee Hughes. We got minus 180 for my guy AJ and plus 150 for Paul Hughes. So it's pretty much what like Bakken said with the 175. But I like that one. I like this one. I'm interested in seeing it. You gave a good rundown. Paul Hughes is pretty much, you know what I'm saying, the next big Irish guy. Would have probably had a faster, or we would have heard or seen of him faster had he not broke both of his hands and somehow, some way got out of Cage Warriors, which is a ratchet fighting league, if I must say. But yeah, I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna put that one in there, and then we gonna pick the rest of them as we go along.
And one more thing, if he ends up not winning this fight, please save the fucking fraud check shit, because this is literally my point. The guy that he is fighting is up there and has one fucking loss.
Right.
So,
yeah, AJ, let's be honest. If you don't know AJ McKee would probably be a top 2 or 3 bantamweight or in the UFC right now.
He's a squirrely guy. Definitely AJ McKee right now. 6 wins by KO, 8 wins by sub, 8 decisions, 1 loss. That is tough. 21 wins in Bellator, 1 loss. And as of the merger, he's got 1 win in the PFL. So this is not a sleeper, ladies and gentlemen. We got to look and see what happens with AJ McKee and Paul Hughes. But I'm liking this one. What we got next? What's the next on the card?
Jason wants to know real quick, who do you pick, Max Holloway or Topuria? Jason, we will break that card down, but I'm right now. I'm gonna tell you, we'll break that card down when that week comes. But right now, I'm leaning towards Max Holloway for myself.
Talk about that exchange, because I thought that was a heated exchange.
I know which way Bobby is leaning. I'll let Bobby say who he's leaning towards right now. And go ahead, Bobby, and then wait, you tell him.
How do you even? Oh wait, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, probably picking Ilya off the power, but at the same time, I still gotta break a lot down for that. But as of today, I'm leaning Ilya. You know, I drafted him like in the 3rd round in the fantasy MMA draft. So I think he fell that far because people thought he'd probably lose to Max. So I'm in. You know how excited I am about that fight.
But, yeah, we'll get to that fight in 2. I think that's 2 weeks time, right? Or next week? That's 2 weeks. Is it next week or 2 weeks? I don't know.
10 days. So
10 days.
Yeah. So hey, Jason, tune in next week. And we'll be breaking down 8 o'clock Central. We'll be breaking down that rest of that card. Which way are you leaning? Just to answer Jason's question real quick.
All right, well, just for Jason. So first of all, I just want to say this. I want to see if they really take that first 10 seconds, like they talked all that trash about, and they just shoot it out. Okay, but if like I always, if you get a chance to watch the show, Jason, I'm that guy that goes, I got to think with my heart and on my head. Right now, pause. No Diddy. If I just use my brain, because I have not done any analysis yet, my brain is going to tell me Ilya Topuria. That's what it's going to scream. But I know my heart. My heart is a blessed Holloway guy. You're like, I'm talking about. I've been a Max Holloway fan for a long, long time before he had the back tattoos. That's how long ago I've been watching him. But I'm hoping that no matter what, we see a good fight, and not just some, not just 2 guys, hugging backs all day. You know what I mean? But I'm excited to talk about that in a week or so.
Yeah, Max is one of my favorite fighters. I hate that I even have to pick the fight, honestly. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, let me pick this AJ McKee Paul Hughes fight real quick. Again, I think AJ McKee if he was in the UFC, he would be one of the top bantamweights or featherweights, whichever class he decided to fight in. He's fought in both. I think he would be right up there in all of them. This one's actually a lightweight, so I think he'd be one of the top lightweights in the world in the UFC. I'm going to go AJ McKee. I really think he is a stud. I like Paul Hughes as well. I think he's got but I'm going to go AJ McKee gets it done. Him and his dad are in the lab, and they got something special for Paul Hughes.
Definitely the rational pick. I can't even hate on it. Like it, yeah, it makes sense.
I'm going to skip over the next fight. They don't even got pictures of the folks on ESPN. That's how these two guys. This is just the fight where you maybe it'll be fun, and we're going to learn about these two guys. But we'll just talk. I'll just say, Hussein Katamegov and Zafar Mohassan. Yeah, wait, go ahead. How do you say those two names?
So from what I got from my Islamic friends, I got Hussein Katamegov. That's just like Nurmagomedov from out of our favorite place, Dagestan. That Nurmagomedov is quite prevalent over there. And Zafar Mohsen, that is Mohsen. I was like, huh? But professionally, we'll make sure we get the right pronunciations. But I think this is a good one too, just to kind of observe number wise. I will get to that. Y'all go ahead with the first parts.
Yeah, we're not gonna pick that fight because it's kind of on the outer skirts. But the fight I want to talk about next,
straight down the middle. There's a reason it's on the main card. So
Hussein, they got Hussein at minus 1,200 and Zafar at plus 750 on DraftKings as of right now. That's
okay. Well, apparently I have no idea. It doesn't sound like
Hussein on ESPN. Hussein on ESPN is minus 1,150.
Ooh.
Well, I think we know.
Was on the outskirts. He was that's the outskirts.
Hey, go ahead and give me Hussein. Give me Hussein, baby.
I'm thinking it. I'm riding with it too. I'm going Nurmagomedov. We're gonna go crazy with this one on Tapology. We're gonna say something crazy like knockout.
First round. He's got to be. He's that big of a favorite. He's the biggest favorite on the card.
Yeah, he's taking him out first round. Nurmagomedov. Let's do it.
All right, we get into. I guess is it the third one of three title fights on this card. It is Johnny Eblen, who is 15-0. He is the Bellator middleweight champion. He is having a rematch against Fabian Edwards. Fabian, the brother of Leon Edwards, the former UFC welterweight champion. They fought once before. Fabian fought just not too long ago. Fabian lost that match to Johnny Eblen. Fabian is 13-3. Johnny is the favorite at minus 425, so a pretty heavy favorite. Fabian is plus 315. Bobby, what's your thoughts here?
I mean, that should be another great one. I mean, we obviously have one to go off there. Eblen's last performance,
it was so. Yeah, it was not great.
He definitely had some struggles with that. So I'm not sure if that was the first time being in Saudi, or if it was just a bad camp or a cut or too many OnlyFans girls. But he is fairly locked in. You've always heard that if he was in the UFC, he would pretty much be the de facto champion. Used to agree with that, but with Drekius's rise, that statement isn't as always easy to say now. But he still would fare very well in the UFC. So I'm interested to see, what Fabian learned from the first fight and stuff. Obviously his brother is coming off that loss. I wonder if that affects him at all mentally, because that's quite a thing to have, a sibling deal with that. But at the same
I think
time,
if Leon got knocked out, I could see, but the way Leon lost, I don't think, you know what I mean? It'd be different. I don't think it'll affect him as much.
Okay.
It's affected me. I just seen my brother take a L. I'm not losing at all.
I mean, I'm not about to go on a Bilal rant, so we'll table that for now. But yeah, I mean that the first fight seemed to have a bit of bad blood. At a time, everyone thought Eblin spit on him. Apparently, that was more of kind of a misunderstanding or whatever. But that one is another for sure thing. Really good. Could be PFL or Bellator's own main event anywhere else. So, I mean, they really are delivering like the bang for the buck here. But, I do think Eblin is going to be able to use the wrestling, and he's going to want to get that last performance back. So it's just kind of going to depend on if Fabian's able to get up. Granted, his brother's last few fights have all been through wrestlers, so you figure it's the main thing they're working on. So I don't doubt that he can't get up at all. But especially with Eblin looking light in that last one, I think a little bit of pressure is on him to kind of show who he is. So I'm going to take Eblin here.
Okay. I like it. All right. So so once again, numbers wise, guys, we're gonna take a quick peek. On Tapology, they got 1,022 voters. 91% with Eblin by submission. So you're rocking with the gang. So if I go ahead, I'm gonna click on it. I'm gonna go Eblin. How we think it was going to end, Bobby? Submission, decision, maybe decision.
I could see a decision or a TKO, but I could also see submission absolutely being the favorite there. Since you have that up, does it say Fabian's last opponent? It's slipping my brain at the minute.
Let's see. So Fabian Edwards.
I know it was. I was trying
to look that up myself, but normally when I'm on the ESPN app, not Fabian Edwards. Who was his last?
Aaron Jeffrey, by the unanimous decision.
Yeah.
In March of 22 in the Bellator event.
Yeah, he looked really sharp in that last one. So, I'm not trying to sell him short at all by picking Johnny, but I just think especially with the one fight already in the books, but who knows? Maybe he could turn it the other way and we get a trilogy out of it.
Yeah, and I made
a decision. Fabian was once the middleweight champion at one point in time. Johnny Eblin is an absolute dog. I mean, if you haven't watched this fight, this the thing is these couple of these fights, you're getting to see some really good young fighters here. We already mentioned AJ McKee and Paul Hughes. Johnny Eblin, add that to the list. The PFL's got some really good young kids. Johnny Eblin, I don't know about being the de facto UFC champion, but he would be the top 2 or 3 guy. I think him and Bo Nix would be a fun fucking fight. Sign me up for that fight. If Johnny ever came over to the UFC, which I think eventually will happen because he's got that dog in him.
He was literally worth acquiring Bellator for, point blank period. Yeah. That is, I know they got a lot of other people as well, but that was by far one of the main A sides.
I like it.
Yeah, and he's talked about his contract's kind of long, but he'll probably come over to the UFC, and I can see them doing what they're just doing with the featherweight guy and give him straight a title shot or one win like they're doing with Kayla Harrison almost. He would be fast tracked. That's how good Johnny Eblin is. He spars quite a bit with Sean Strickland. He is part of the ATT team. Him and Dustin Poirier. Everybody who's been around Johnny Eblin talks about how good he is. I think he wins this one. I think he can finish him. I'll probably say by submission here, but I'm going to go Johnny Eblen.
I got you. So I'm gonna roll with Bacchus' choice on this one. We're going Evelyn submission on Tapology, and then right now, if I'm looking at the odds on DraftKings, they got Evelyn at -425, Fabian Edwards at 330. So it's pretty much like you guys are predicting so far, man. I like this one. In my with all the talk about Fabian Edwards and seeing his brother take a loss, having taken a tough loss as well, I'm hoping that it doesn't damage him in this fight and just leave him open to being taken out early. But I do like Evelyn on this one, and I'm rolling with you guys.
Bobby's hoping this is like Kickboxer, where Jean-Claude Van Damme sees his brother get his ass beat by Tom Poe, and he's like, "I want Tom Poe. You train me like Tom Poe."
I do expect Leon to be there. You would think he would be.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sure he'll be in Fabian's corner. Yeah. And let's get to the co-main event. It is the ageless wonder that is Chris Cyborg.
Oh my God.
27-2. Cyborg is back in the octagon for the first time in a long time. Speaking of Kayla Harrison, she's forever linked to Larissa Pacheco, who beat her one time out of the 3 times they fought, and or maybe it was like 4 times. I feel like
I don't think I've heard that before. Oh wait, that? PFL retweeted it. I forgot.
Yeah. The one time that she beat him out of the 4 times that they fought, and it wasn't the first time; it was like the very last time. Pacheco 23-4. Pacheco's actually, I'm surprised Pacheco's the favorite here, Bobby, at -150 against the ever game veteran Chris Cyborg, who just won't go away in life.
Won't go away at all, bro.
Yeah, I think the line is fairly kind of in line. She does have that win over Kayla. And I think a lot of people, like if Kayla Cyborg ever happened, would have picked Kayla. So that's probably why a lot of that's going on. It really comes down to, where her head's at and stuff, like not doing MMA in a while could be kind of a big deal. I'm sure we'll get to it in the main event as well. But I mean, particularly, it's actually kind of unique. I just thought of it till now. Both the co-main and main event have people that have been boxing that are now going back to MMA. So I think maybe that's why Pacheco has the slight edge, because she can probably try to implore some grappling, but at the same time, it's is she really going to be able to hold her down? Cyborg does look really big. But I do think Pacheco is just younger and has been getting a little pissed off being cast on the sidelines, especially, when they lost Kayla. She kind of got put on ice for a little bit, and then they finally got this to make. So I think it's going to be a, reminding us of who she is performance. And they're going to sour the comeback and all the money they gave Cyborg. So as of today, I'm picking Pacheco, but I could easily see that one going either way because, Cyborg is that bitch. So, I mean, if she wants to, implore that, it could be a really good fight. But I really don't know what we're going to get out of that one until I think they're inside the cage going at it. Because just with the layoff with Cyborg and stuff, it's, not too really sure what we're going to get until it happens. But I'm leaning Pacheco there.
Yeah, the last time Cyborg fought was 2023, October 7th, 2023. So about a year ago against Kat Sagano.
And that was in Bellator before they were acquired?
Yeah, Bellator 300. Yeah, Bellator 300.
Okay, so yeah, like right before they were acquired and stuff. So yeah, that almost makes you want to flip back the other way. But I'm still kind of confident that the younger fighter might prevail, but it's definitely going to be a pretty good fight.
All right, so I'm looking at a couple things, man, and I'm seeing right here on Tapology they got it locked in right now with 1,085 votes. Chris Cyborg by the KO is leading the way for 63%. Pacheco with 37. And right now it's kind of one of those things where on DraftKings, I think this is probably a little closer than people might think. They got Chris Cyborg at plus 124 and Larissa Pacheco at 148.
Yeah.
And for me, this is probably, Bobby mentioned one of those pick'ems. This might be one of them. I know, Bacchus, you just mentioned the layoff, but if I'm looking at it, right. So she won these exhibition boxing matches by overhand rights. I don't know why, but I feel like that, she was already a dangerous striker in the first place. I don't know if it's going to make her any less dangerous having that little MMA rust. Not necessarily ring rust being in competition, but just MMA rust. So this is a tough one for me, guys. I don't know. I might have to run with Cyborg on this one just for the strength of, one missed feint and Pacheco could be out straight up.
Yeah, if you want to do it based on power, I have absolutely no problem with that. She should be the pick. And, Tapology especially, I think a lot of those people picking are for sure name value. So it's why it's so high compared to Vegas, which has it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pacheco has not fought since about a year ago as well, November 4th, 2023. So that's the last time she fought as well. So she's been on a nice winning streak. Pacheco has. She's actually won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, including the Kayla Harrison win in their November of 2022. With that being said, I'm with Bobby here. I like the younger Pacheco, Larissa Pacheco. I think Cyborg's just a little long in the tooth, but if Chris Cyborg wins, I wouldn't be surprised either. But this kind of goes with the main event as well as the main event we talked about at Hendon Fiera versus the returning Francis Ngannou. Francis coming back from boxing, Cyborg coming back from boxing. Let me ask you, will that change how they do things? Like, it didn't work out for Conor from going to the MMA, back to boxing, back to MMA, obviously, because the fighting stances and style. Do you think that'll play a problem for either Cyborg or Francis?
I think that it's going to play. It's gonna be an issue, but I think smarter seasoned fighters like Cyborg, like Ngannou, they're gonna make that adjustment. And I think Ngannou, we'll get to the main event, but I think Ngannou is gonna have to make that adjustment a lot faster than Chris Cyborg. I think that for what it's worth, just the name and the idea of Chris Cyborg striking you is going to make Pacheco just be a little apprehensive of getting in the range and getting close and maybe making the mistake of having, Cyborg's right hand meet her chin, and it just being game over. So I think it really will have an effect on the first fight, on the co-main rather than the main. And I'm with you guys. I love the idea of Pacheco doing something that seems, undoable right now. And I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on there for you guys. We're gonna go Pacheco by KO or TKO. Which round are we thinking, Bikens? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's probably Pacheco actually by decision, if you ask me.
By decision? Okay, I'm running with you, bro. Right there.
If he gets her out of there, it might be in the fourth or something, wearing her down.
Yeah. I think it's probably closer to a decision, though.
I got you. We running with decision.
So one last thing on this before we go to the main, because I definitely want to do this for both this and the main. Who do you think Don David wants to win co-main?
I think he wants Pacheco to win the co-main.
Yeah, it's a more sexy pick for Pacheco than
I agree. especially because I think Cyborg's been a nightmare to deal with, and that's why it took so long. But no, I think definitely he wants because again he
I
can go
think
off
he wants.
the
Do you think
homegrown
he
star.
do you think he wants Francis to lose the main event?
Let's table that for after we do our picks.
Yeah,
That,
that's a tough one.
Okay, because I'm like, if you're asking me that question, I think I know your line of thinking here. Because why would you ask that about the main event? And I would need to know why you think that. So I'm curious. But we'll go ahead and we'll get into the main event here. It is the return of Francis, the El Predador Ngannou versus Brandon Vieira. El Problemo. We have not seen Francis in the octagon since January 22nd, 2022, when he beat Cyril Gane. To Francis' credit, he has not lost in the octagon since July 7th, 2018. So, yeah, that was to one of the most boringest fights in the world to Derek Lewis. So, but he returns back. Obviously, back on different circumstances. We had the knockout just earlier this year to Anthony Joshua, return him after the death of his son, who we can't, that he's carrying that with him as well. So he returns back to the octagon for the first time in the PFL. And really back in Saudi Arabia, where the knockout happened in. To Anthony Joshua. Henry Fierro returns after beating Ryan Bader about a year ago as well in the same arena. Bobby, your thoughts here on the main event?
I find a lot of the stuff that I find interesting about this, it kind of all comes down to where Francis is at. Mainly coming off that knockout, he's never been knocked out like that before, at least in a fight,
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did that happen in March of last year or?
Anthony Joshua, March 8th, 2024. That was the show.
Yeah, because that I remember.
Yeah, this year. That happened this year.
Yeah, that was it was like a few days before my birthday. I went away and I was like, ooh, we're gonna get to watch this. And yeah, that ruined my day. Like, cause I thought, oh, what's the worst that could happen? He gets, and ooh. But not bringing that back up, but definitely coming off that. And then obviously, the tragedy with his son, which I'm not even gonna try to describe, like I know how that feels. I did feel a lot better when I saw him do the Rogan interview. He talked about a lot of this stuff in detail. And it really sounded like he was at a crossroads, not knowing what he wanted to do. Because, he made all the money in boxing and stuff. But he definitely made the choice to come back. And he wants to fight. And he seems motivated, a motivated Francis. The same motivated Francis who everyone said, oh, you're not going to get a boxing fight. He said, oh, wait, hold my beer. I'm going to box Tyson Fury for my first boxing fight. Not only that, but I'm going to knock him down. So, whenever his back seems to be pushed up against the wall, he seems to always kind of answer that call. I know with the AJ fight, he was at the stadium a lot longer. It sounded like, Hearn played those old kind of dirty boxing tactics and stuff, and kind of iced him. He ain't going to have to worry about any of that shit this time. Like, he's going to come on his time. Hell, he may even make him wait in the octagon for a little bit. But, Ferreira is no layup. As much as I, make jokes and stuff like that, like, he did win the PFL tournament. I personally did not really think the Ryan Bader fight was anything too impressive because he's like a more natural 205er. But when you look at the size, you're like, oh, holy shit, this could be a short night. This could definitely be fireworks. But you said Ferreira fought in Saudi Arabia before. That is true. But I don't think he's ever had a fight like this. Granted, he's done very well with all the media that I've seen him do, with them having to do it and stuff like that. But I'm just very curious if when that door shuts, if he's going to have it all blocked out. Like, is he going to look locked in as fuck as Khalil Roundtree and be like, hey, it's time to go to Pound Town? You know, we very well might get that. Or, you know, we very well might just get, you know, two of the highest heavyweights going at it. But honestly, and I mean this with all due respect, I do not think Ferreira is able to beat a healthy, motivated Francis. For me, if there was not a 3-year layoff, I'd be screaming this, you know, from the bridge with my pick. But I do think with all these things added into it, and like Tommy Aspinall says, it's heavyweight MMA. All it takes is one. But, you know, that being said, I can't roll with anyone but our boy. So give me Francis. And as far as the fight goes, you know, Ferreira has struggled in the past getting wrestled. So I'm not trying to put this juju out in the air, but I also think there's a pretty decent chance we get a little bit of a different fight than we saw. Or
Francis,
predicted.
like Surreal Gone style.
I mean, granted, he did that on one leg because he had like a torn ACL or MCL.
Yeah.
Like his leg was fucked up. But if he can do that to, you know, gone on one leg, I think, you know, as long as he is motivated and in the zone, you know, again, not trying to cut Ferreira short, but I think Francis will be able to get it done and hold off the victory. But just, it is, you know, talking about it more and breaking it down, I'm definitely a lot more hyped about it than I was, because I was here. It kind of just felt like the tired promoting of just that same fight. And it's like, I know this fight's going on. Tell me about the fucking rest of the card. But, you know, now that I'm shooting the shit back and forth, it's going to be a special moment on Saturday, and I can't wait to watch it.
For sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Whit.
Yeah, man, bro. Bobby said a mouthful. When it comes to me, it's really one of those things, man. Me and Barkins last year, earlier this year, at this time, we were like, oh my God, you know, PFL Bellator is coming together. Ryan Bader, I'm a huge Ryan Bader fan, if anybody knows me. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna do something. No. Ryan Bader did not do anything to make me feel more confident in February of 24 when the Bellator came together with PFL, and they had that big, humongous spectacle, like they say, quote unquote. Anyway,
that feels so long ago, and that was this year. That's what's crazy.
It feels crazy.
So fucking long ago.
But one of those things that Bobby mentioned is motivation. Motivation for fighters, I think, is a big deal. And it's already been stated, you know, he lost a son. He lost to one of the best fighters, one of the best heavyweights in the world, even though he just took an L, you know, to Anthony Joshua with a nice overhand right. And sometimes taking tough losses motivates some people. I think the big man straight out of Batik, Cameroon, is going to be extra motivated, not only because of that, but remember, the PFL launches PFL Africa with Francis Ngannou as chairman in July. In my mind, that is the headline that you want to put on top of this. Francis Ngannou wants to represent Africa in PFL in Africa with a win on his belt. Not just anyone, but a win against one of the scariest fighters in the division, just to tell everybody, hey, look, you can do it too. And I come from nothing. For me, I really, really am intrigued as to see what the PFL is going to do if Francis wins. and see how they portray him going forward, because I think it's a big deal, and if especially if he takes them out in old school Francis Ngannou fashion, like Bobby mentioned, this is definitely not a layup right here. As I look at the numbers, once again on Tapology, right now they got 1,220 people voted. Everybody, well, not everybody, but 80% is going Ngannou by knockout. The other, of course, is going, Ferreira by knockout. And right now, the main event is 270 minus 270 Francis plus 220 for Renan Ferreira. So it's right there, straight down the middle. Who's going to get to who first? But I think, and this is my opinion, I think that Ferreira is not going to rush in very much like he did with Ryan Bader. It's too much of a risk to just go rush Francis Ngannou. He was not afraid of Ryan Bader, who was, like you mentioned, Bobby, the smaller guy. Somebody had to get to 205. But Ngannou, naturally bigger, stronger, used to, carrying that weight, and his hands basically one of the strongest pound per square inch punch that they've seen in the UFC. I'm really wondering how he, the other person approaches this, because hey, do I wrestle him? Do I not wrestle him? What if he still can wrestle? And for me, Ngannou has just as much fight prowess that we've seen in the past, where he had to wrestle, he had to do a little bit of sprawling, but still found a way to get his hands involved. And for me, guys, I got to roll with it. Ngannou by knockout. Simple.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you guys. I just think Francis got so much, and he's carrying so much into this fight. It's been, man, what a whirlwind year for him. And Hidden Ferreira is this unknown guy. Like, I just think it's got to be Francis. Like, he's going to get it done. I don't think that the boxing in this aspect will face off, because you don't have to be as technical when you're a heavyweight, especially when I think you're facing a guy like Hidden Ferreira. Both these guys are who could knock your head off. But I think Francis will be okay. I think Francis gets it done. And so I'm going to go. I'm going for my internet's cutting out. I'm going Francis as well. There we go. Bobby, you asked who does Don Davis want to win this fight? Tell me. I for some reason I think you're thinking Hendon Ferreira. So go ahead and tell me why.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll pick that up. One last thing that occurred to me when I heard both of you breaking it down. There is a good chance that Ferreira feeds off all that and capitalizes on it, because he probably has the exact same feelings that Francis did when he was the guy coming from Cameroon. So again, it is not anything I am trying to downplay at all. I know that is a live thing, and I rarely pick with my heart, but this is, one that I am without a doubt, rolling with either way. So now to Donnie Davis. I could honestly make an argument for this either way, because you would think, okay, if Ferreira wins, he's batshit happy because someone that was in his organization was able to defeat Francis. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he also get cut by the UFC, or am I getting him confused with someone else?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, he did at one time got cut from the UFC, or lost in the Contender Series or something crazy. Yeah.
So like whatever that angle is, they would like love spawning off that. And they could definitely make it off that. At the same time, there is not a fighter on the PFL roster that they gave more to Francis. And, if the boxing fights weren't on the table and stuff, I don't even think this would be a question. I think it would be Francis all day. But, I can't remember when he signed the PFL deal, but I do know that he had 2 boxing fights before he ever fought in MMA. Now, the PFL deserves all the credit in the world for allowing him to do that. That is why he picked them. But like I said, I could see it go either way, but I think he wants, in the end, Francis to win so he can still have something to hold over for the possibility of cross promotion. And I ain't talking about John Jones. I'm talking about Tom Aspinall. I do think there is a realistic scenario where, Dana's always been against the cross promotion until Turkey Al-Sheikh held his hand. And ever since then, he's been a little bit, more warmed up to it. Furthermore, I think Dana would be more than happy to try to embarrass Francis one more time when you see, all this obnoxious shit about the boxing and stuff. But realistically, for the PFL, they might have set themselves up for a win-win. It just all depends on how they market this after, because it's absolutely an intriguing story. The question is, will they be able to, tell it on the broadcast and put all that out? And the one thing they should take from the UFC that I'm sure they've already done with all their other shit, you need to put the finish on their socials immediately. Just how, they did with Sugar Sean when he knocked out Aljo. You need to take advantage of this moment and make sure that everyone that is not watching it and did not buy it at least sees the fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. No doubt. Before that kind of concludes the Battle of the Giants preview here of PFL. Before we get out of here, there's the big boxing match over this past Saturday. Tell us a little bit about what's kind of next for both.
Okay, so just in case you didn't know, we had some boxing. We had Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev going at it. And I'm talking about real going at it, folks. No Diddy. This was a match that I think superseded boxing. Even the most gracious boxing analysts were in awe of 2 men putting it all on the line and showing their skill. And I think especially for me, having been focusing on boxing this past year, this has to have been top 3 boxing matches of this year for sure. It went the distance. There was not a round where I could have fallen asleep. There was no instance in which I said, "Hey man, this match is boring. Just wake me up at 10 through 12." Nothing. Nah. Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, 2 guys who went in there and very, very often in boxing, people will not risk that 0 coming off of their records. They will fight underneath. They will fight everybody else except for who is on competition. But as of late, in the last year and a half, when it's involved with Riyadh season and Turkey Al-Sheikh, and they do it every match, they sit Turkey Al-Sheikh right there in center camera, so you know whose money is involved. I gotta just read off of this real quick, just in case you didn't know. Dmitry Bivol outlanded Artur Beterbiev with 142 punches compared to his opponent's 137. Bivol also landed with more jabs. He had 58 compared to Beterbiev's 47. Beterbiev landed more power punches with 90 compared to 84. And that's from B&B News, and that's a CompuBox comparison. Okay, so CompuBox, that's the real deal when it comes to that. In conclusion, of the 12 rounds, the officials scored it 115 to 113 and 116 to 112 for Beterbiev, with one judge scoring the fight as a draw. I'm with that guy. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but if you get a chance to look at that fight, I would have just put a drawdown just so we could have another one of those.
I think we're going to get it. I think they're going to run it back.
Yeah, they're gonna run it back. But I mean, it was just that good that I wouldn't have wanted to pick a boxer. Just like the numbers was the news report I stated before from B&B News, like literally the idea is although Bivol landed more punches at critical moments than Beterbiev was beyond my measure of boxers. How you punch, how you move, how you become slick. The punches were getting landed, but somebody looked just a tad like maybe 6, 7, 8, 9. I felt like right in the middle, it just meshed, and all of a sudden, one person looked just a little better than the other, just a little bit, and then it went right back even in the championship rounds. Neither man backing down. The fight was action packed, and that's very rare that you see a fight for unanimity of that's a big SAT word. Y'all need to look it up. Unanimity of belts. It's very rare that you see two guys who are going to go in there and lay it all out there and not worry. Sometimes you get guys, one guy dances, the other guy's none of that was happening, and I was excited to be a part of it and watch it. So once again, salam alaikum to everybody out there in Riyadh season who puts the money up for these fights so that these people can stop running from one another and get in the ring and show us good quality fights. Not just any fight. No, not just any fight. Don't just don't just go fight stranger from Mexico because he's cool. No. Give me a quality fight with another champion across from you and show me what you got. I loved it. Oh yeah, you said what's next? So in reality, they're going to Eddie Hearn is out here in the streets making sure that we know there is a clause that they will definitely pursue in 2025, possibly in the summer of 25, because we have to see if there's a possibility. Notice the possibility if Beterbiev might try to put on 10 to 15 more pounds, which is not that hard because he looked pretty big, if you ask me, and see what happens with the conclusion of this somewhat of a heavyweight round robin that we got going on right now. Because he did do cruiser, and that's only 5 pounds away. But you got to put on that whole 10 to 15 and maintain it in order to do heavyweight.
So in real time, when you watched it, did you have it a draw, or were you just more cool with the draw of the judges' scorecard, like when they read it out?
I put it like this. I was more so on the Bivol camp because your eyes, as someone who watched the fight, my eyes were enamored by how he was not afraid of what was happening. But when you think of boxing and the point matching that they try to score with everything with, where the volume is not taken into context. There it is. I couldn't get the word out. But the volume of punches is not taken into context as much so as in the 90s, let's say. The volume of punches. It's about where and how there's punches. And a lot of times they're taking slips, deflections, and counters into what's going on. Bivol was going off. You know what I'm saying? That's the point. Bivol was actually going off, but that left several opportunities for Beterbiev to counter, to have him miss, to have him to slip a punch, to catch him in the body. I was going Bivol the entire time, but I do understand. I understand why it went the way it went. Do I like it? Not necessarily. I would have, like I said, I would have loved for it to be a draw. Because to me, there was no clear winner of any particular round except for maybe 6, 7, and 8. And Beterbiev looked like he was getting into his rhythm because everybody kept saying Beterbiev, oh yeah, he's such a slow starter, blah blah blah. But you can see that these are two gentlemen who are at the top of the game. I don't know how much boxing we watch, but we do get a chance to talk about it, and I appreciate you guys letting me get my rants in. But man, if you can go back and watch it and just slow down and watch it, I think you got to do the Bobby and cut the comment. That English commentary is a little different. If you ever watch one of those fights and you got those English commentaries, it's a little different. But if you just pay attention and look at who's doing what, watch the movement, watch the slips, watch who's actually being evasive, and then they both shut all of that off and they go at it and they are swinging for the fences, really, toe to toe. When they say toe to toe, they really were toe to toe on several occasions in this fight, and I appreciated just getting a chance to watch it. But Bivol, dangerous. Beterbiev, just a little more knowledgeable on how they was going to score it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have been completely fine with the draw, but at the same time, with the 10-point must system, I was not. I didn't think you could really call it a robbery. It was a pretty
not a
close
robbery
fight that you could see going either way.
It was.
I mean, I know Eddie Hearn was acting like someone pissed in his Cheerios, but he's been having a rough year too. So
yes.
Yeah,
Eddie Hearn has not been good at Riyadh.
He hasn't got over the Anthony Joshua fight.
That too.
It was a close fight. It wasn't a robbery or anything like that. A close fight's a close fight. So we'll be back this time next week, folks. 8:00 Central, 9 Eastern. We'll look at the PFL show as well. Kind of talk the results, but the main focus will be UFC 308, headlined by the featherweight champ Ilya the Matador Topuria versus Max West Holloway in one of the most anticipated fights of the year that we're going to be able to see. Can't wait. Co-main Robert Whitaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. We'll break it all down. Maybe Khamzat. I won't believe Khamzat's in the octagon until he's in there.
Right.
But maybe. We got one more week. Maybe. Other than that, be a friend, tell a friend, folks. Like, subscribe, share. It's been another great episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers. We'll see you next week, 8:00 Central, 9 Eastern. See you then.
So great.
2 weeks of midday pay-per-views. All right.
Hell yeah.